Sandra was the kind of woman who drew attention everywhere she went. Her smooth skin, long dark hair, and graceful figure made people stop and stare. She carried the aura of someone born into wealth. Yet her story was nothing like that. She had built her life from scratch through sheer effort. In Lagos, she ran a small but chic boutique where she sold clothes, bags, and accessories. Business was steady, and she was proud of what she had achieved. She lived alone in a tidy 3-bedroom apartment on the mainland and drove a spotless Toyota Corolla. She wasn't wealthy, but she was comfortable, and she knew it. Sandra loved fashion. No matter the occasion, even a simple errand, she dressed as if stepping onto a runway. That Saturday afternoon, she slipped into a fitted purple dress that flattered her figure, paired with diamond earrings that caught the sunlight. Her makeup was subtle yet perfect, and her fragrance lingered like her signature. She walked through the open market with confidence, a small handbag in one hand and her phone in the other. The sun blazed overhead, and the place pulsed with life. Traders shouting prices, buyers bargaining, the smell of food and spices filling the air. Sandra disliked the chaos, but she needed fresh ingredients. As she bent to pick a bunch of tomatoes, she felt it, a touch. A frail, rough hand brushed hers. She spun around and froze. Before her stood an old woman, barefoot, her skin dusty, her clothes torn, her eyes dull with exhaustion. She said nothing, just extended a trembling hand as if begging for help. Disgust flashed across Sandra's face. "How dare you touch me?" she snapped, her voice cutting like a blade. "Are you mad? You filthy beggar. How dare you lay those stinking hands on me?" Shoppers nearby glanced at the scene but remained silent. The old woman stood still, head bowed, her lips unmoving, her gaze empty on the ground. Sandra grew angrier. "You're not even sorry? You can't talk? Just standing there like a fool." Then came the crack. Sandra's palm struck the woman's cheek so sharply it echoed through the market. The woman staggered back but did not speak. "You should be thankful I didn't call the police," Sandra hissed. "You're cursed. Just look at yourself. No dignity, no shame, wandering like a ghost. God forbid I ever end up like you." The beggar bent down, whispered something too faint for anyone to hear, then turned and melted into the crowd without a word. Sandra scoffed, tossing her hair. "That woman must be crazy," she muttered. "Whatever. Worthless old thing." She finished her shopping, got into her car and blasted loud music as she drove home. The moment replayed in her mind like a film. The slap, her anger, her defiance. A part of her almost admired herself for putting the beggar in her place. That evening, she showered and slipped into a silk robe before heading to the kitchen. She prepared her favorite meal, fried plantain, spicy jollof rice and grilled chicken. Kelvin, her boyfriend, was coming over, and she wanted everything just right. Yet, as she stirred the rice, her thoughts drifted back to the market. To the silent old woman. To the way she hadn't said a single word. Sandra shook her head firmly. "Nonsense," she muttered. "Just another crazy beggar." She forced a smile, poured wine into 2 glasses and set the table. The night was only beginning, though something quietly had already begun to shift. Something Sandra could never have imagined. Her life slipped back into its usual rhythm, or so it seemed. Days rolled into weeks, weeks into months, and before long, 3 years had quietly gone by. The memory of the market scene, the beggar, and the slap became nothing more than a faint shadow in her mind. She carried on as though none of it had ever happened. Sandra kept running her boutique. She posted glamorous pictures on Instagram. She traveled, attended parties with her boyfriend, and dressed like the royalty she believed herself to be. Everything looked perfect, until it wasn't. It started subtly, a dull ache in her back, a nagging headache, a strange exhaustion she couldn't explain. She brushed it off, but the discomfort only grew worse. Soon, she could no longer sleep peacefully through the night. Her body felt drained, her skin lost its shine, and the sparkle in her eyes faded. Something inside her was withering, yet no one could name it. She went to the hospital. Tests upon tests, endless scans. Every doctor gave the same response. "We can't find anything wrong." But Sandra knew deep inside that something was terribly wrong. They prescribed pills, injections, drips for fluids, strong painkillers. For 5 long months, she moved in and out of the hospital. Nothing helped. She only declined. Her strength vanished. She could no longer walk. She couldn't bathe herself. She couldn't sit upright for more than a moment. Her boutique shut down. Her loyal customers drifted away. Her glow disappeared. And her boyfriend, he stayed only 2 months. At first he tried, buying her medicine, urging her to eat. But gradually his visits became shorter, his calls less frequent. One day he simply stopped coming. Just like that, gone. Sandra was left alone. Her family stepped in. Her mother moved in, becoming her caregiver, washing her, feeding her, changing her clothes. Her siblings did what they could, but the hospital bills were overwhelming. Sandra had no choice but to sell her boutique, her pride, her livelihood. Yet still, there was no cure. Her body shrank, her bones jutted against her skin, her hair grew thin. She became a shadow of the woman she once was, a ghost of herself. One day, her mother cradled her gently and whispered, "Let's turn to prayers. The hospitals aren't helping anymore." From that moment, they journeyed from one church to another, climbing mountaintops, attending crusades. They met pastors, prophets, and self-declared miracle workers. Hands were laid on her. Oil was poured. Strange tongues were spoken. Yet nothing changed. In desperation, one of her sisters scraped together savings and took her back to the hospital. But this time, something unsettling happened. After hours of observation, the doctor sat them down and said quietly, "Medically, this girl is fine." There was nothing anyone could do for her. What was happening, they feared, was beyond the physical. It was spiritual. Silence filled the room. Her mother froze in place. Sandra lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling, lips quivering, her eyes lifeless. They had tried everything. They had prayed, fasted, wept, but the whispers of death lingered. Then one day, a knock echoed at the door. It was Amanda, Sandra's childhood friend. She had moved away 2 years earlier and hadn't seen Sandra since. But after months of silence, she grew worried and decided to visit. As soon as Amanda stepped inside and caught sight of Sandra, her bag slipped from her hand. Her jaw dropped. "Sandra, oh my God. What happened to you?" she gasped, hurrying to her side. Sandra lay fragile and thin, her skin pale, her eyes hollow. The lively, fashionable, energetic woman Amanda once knew was gone. "I went to your boutique," Amanda said softly, "but they told me it's no longer yours." "What happened?" Sandra's lips trembled as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Amanda, life happened," she whispered. "I don't know what's wrong. I just fell sick. Month after month, I spent everything, even sold my boutique. We've been to hospitals, churches, prayer houses, but no one knows what's wrong. My whole body hurts. I can't even bathe myself. I can't eat. Amanda, look at me. I'm exhausted." She broke down sobbing. Amanda knelt by her, gripping her hands tightly. "Hey, don't cry. I'm here now. You're not alone. We'll figure this out together. I promise you we'll fight this. And you, Sandra, will rise again." But deep inside, Amanda's eyes betrayed fear. Because what she felt wasn't just illness. It was something darker. A curse. Something from the past had returned, demanding its price. From that day, Amanda became Sandra's lifeline. She visited often, bringing medicine, fruit, words of comfort, anything she could afford. Yet, nothing changed. Sandra only grew weaker. One afternoon, her mother sat outside their small one-room apartment, her face lined with despair, her faded clothes speaking of hardship. The rent for Sandra's old 3-bedroom flat had long expired. The landlord had given them their final warning. They had to leave immediately. Sandra wept through the night while her mother prayed endlessly. Just as hope seemed lost, Amanda arrived. "I've paid for a small one-room apartment," she said gently. "It's not much, but it will do until things get better." Sandra's mother dropped to her knees, clutching Amanda's legs. "You are an angel. God truly sent you. May heaven reward you, my daughter." Amanda smiled tenderly. "Don't thank me. Sandra once helped me when I needed it. This is just me returning the favor." She turned to Sandra and squeezed her hand. "What are friends for?" Sandra, her eyes heavy with fatigue, whispered, "Thank you, Amanda. May God bless you." But 2 weeks passed, and Sandra's condition remained unchanged. Her body was still frail, her strength fading. Her groans replaced the silence of her room. One evening Amanda entered, her face bright with hope. "Sandra," she said quickly, rushing to her bedside. "I have good news." Sandra turned her head slowly, her eyes dull, yet faintly curious. "What is it?" she asked in a weak voice. "There's a pastor I know," Amanda explained. "A true man of God. Not like the ones who take people's money and put on a show. This one is different." Sandra frowned, her body slumping. "Amanda, we've been to so many churches. They drained us. They shouted, poured oil, prayed endlessly, but nothing changed. I'm tired. I don't want to waste what little strength I have left." Amanda touched her shoulders gently. "I understand. But if he asks for money, we'll leave together. Just one last try, Sandra. Please." Sandra sighed, then nodded weakly. "Okay, one last time." 2 days later, Amanda carefully guided Sandra through the gates of a quiet church. It wasn't crowded or flashy like the others she had seen before. They were led straight to the pastor's office, where a tall, calm man in a white shirt and plain trousers sat behind a wooden desk. His Bible lay open before him, the faint scent of frankincense filling the room. "Good morning, Pastor," Amanda greeted. "Good morning," he replied softly, his sharp, discerning eyes studying them. Then he turned to Sandra. You are not merely sick. What afflicts you is not ordinary. Let us pray." He closed his eyes, murmuring under his breath as his hand rested on the Bible. Then, without looking up, he asked, "What is your name?" "Sandra, sir," she answered. He paused, then spoke firmly. "Sandra, a strong spell has been cast upon you, a powerful which cursed you." Sandra and Amanda exchanged startled glances. The pastor opened his eyes and fixed his gaze on her. 3 years ago," he said slowly, "something happened at the market. Do you remember?" Sandra's eyes widened. I don't think so," she stammered. The pastor leaned forward. "You slapped a beggar. You mocked her. You laughed. Do you recall now?" Sandra froze. Her mind flashed back. The slap, the insults, the laughter. Her throat went dry. "Yes," she whispered. "I remember. I was angry. Someone upset me earlier that day. When she touched me, I snapped. I didn't mean to." The pastor raised a hand. "That woman wasn't just a beggar. She was on a spiritual mission that day, and you, out of anger, interfered. You became the target. She spat on the ground and cursed you. Since that moment, your life has been under attack." Sandra's hands shook. Amanda covered her mouth in shock. "She cursed me," Sandra whispered hoarsely. "All because I slapped her?" The pastor's face was grave. "She was no ordinary woman. The curse she placed on you is severe. Breaking it will not be easy." Sandra broke into sobs. "This is my fault. I brought this on myself." Amanda wrapped her arms around her tightly. "Don't say that. You didn't know. You couldn't have known." The pastor closed his Bible gently. "Prepare yourself," he said solemnly. "This will not be an ordinary battle. But if you are willing to fight, truly fight, you can survive this." Sandra lifted her tear-streaked face, her eyes swollen and red. "I'll do anything, sir," she whispered desperately. "Anything, just help me live again." She sat in silence, her face pale, wet with tears. Amanda rubbed her back gently, both still shaken by what they had heard. The air in the room grew heavy, thick with truth. The pastor leaned forward, his Bible still resting on the desk. His voice was calm as he spoke. "Sandra, I need you to grasp something. Life is spiritual. Most of what takes place in the physical world begins in the unseen. Around us are angels, demons, broken souls, and forces beyond our understanding, and we often walk among them without realizing it." Sandra sniffled, keeping her eyes lowered. The pastor went on. "The marketplace isn't just an ordinary place. Among the living are also the dead, the wicked, and the disguised. All mingling, all trading. That beggar you struck, she was not what she appeared to be. This is why we must guard our words, our reactions, and our pride. You never know who is who." He looked her straight in the eye. "Never belittle anyone simply because they seem small. Some people carry more power than they show." Tears spilled down Sandra's cheeks. "I wish I could go back," she whispered. I wish I could undo that day. I was angry. I was proud. I didn't know. I just didn't know. The pastor rose and gently laid his hand on her head. You can't change the past, he said softly. But you can still fight for your future. Sandra nodded. Her chest ached with regret. Yet somewhere inside, a faint spark of hope began to stir. Slowly, she stood up, and Amanda helped her out of the office. They left that day not just with answers, but with a warning they would never forget. That night after visiting the pastor, Sandra couldn't sleep. Her body ached, but it wasn't only from her illness. Her mind kept circling back to that old beggar. She hadn't thought of her in years. Who would have imagined that one slap, one cruel insult, could open such a dark door? Close to midnight, her eyes snapped open. At the foot of her bed stood a shadow. The air was freezing, far too cold for the night. Her mother lay fast asleep beside her, unaware. Sandra couldn't move. The shadow stepped closer, tall, crooked, faceless, wrapped in rags, barefoot. Then it spoke. You laughed at me when all I needed was mercy. The voice was hollow, echoing, seeping through the room like smoke. You slapped me. You mocked me. You scorned what you did not understand. Sandra's lips parted. I'm sorry, she tried to whisper, but no sound came out. The figure raised its hand. A violent wind burst through the shut room, scattering papers and whipping the curtains. And then light. Blinding, brilliant light filled the room. The shadow vanished. By the door stood the pastor, radiant, glowing softly, Bible in hand. It was a vision. You must fight, he said, or you will fade. The next morning Amanda found Sandra soaked in sweat, barely able to breathe. We begin today, Amanda said firmly. We're going back to the church. The deliverance was unlike anything Sandra had expected. No drums, no shouting, only a candle, the Bible, and silence. The pastor prayed in low whispers. Amanda stood behind, weeping quietly. Then it began. Sandra's body convulsed violently. She screamed, a sound not human. Her eyes rolled back, her hands clawed the floor, and the air turned icy once more. The pastor stood steady. Every spirit of affliction, every curse born of pain, every evil transfer, I cast you out in Jesus' name. Sandra shrieked again, this time with a guttural, unearthly voice. Her head snapped backward, tears streaming. Then silence. She collapsed unconscious. 7 hours later, her eyes fluttered open. For the first time in 3 years, her body no longer felt like it was dying. Amanda rushed to her side. Sandra, can you hear me? Sandra looked around, disoriented. Where am I? You're free, Amanda whispered, hugging her tightly. You're finally free. 3 months passed. Sandra's cheeks had filled again. Her skin glowed, and she could walk, eat, even laugh. She and her mother moved into a cleaner room. Together, they reopened a small version of her boutique. Just one shelf, one mannequin, one little stall. But it was hers. One afternoon, Sandra sat by the window braiding her hair when Amanda walked in with a basket of fruit. Sandra smiled. Amanda, you saved my life. Amanda shook her head. No. God saved your life. I was only a friend who refused to give up. Sandra gazed out at the sunset. I think about her sometimes, she said softly. The beggar. If I could see her again, what would I say? Her eyes welled up. I would kneel and say, I'm sorry. Not just with words, but with my whole heart. She paused. Because sometimes the person we wound is the very one sent to test our soul. That day Sandra finally understood. Pride comes at a steep cost, cruelty demands a price, and mercy ignored can turn into a curse. But grace is real, and a few are blessed enough to be given a second chance. Moral lessons. Never look down on anyone, especially the vulnerable. Sandra mocked, insulted, and struck a beggar. Not because the woman harmed her, but because she was poor. That act of arrogant cruelty brought years of suffering. Treat everyone, no matter how lowly, with dignity and kindness. You never know who they really are. Anger can cost more than you realize. Sandra wasn't truly angry at the beggar. She simply let her existing frustrations spill onto the wrong person. One rash act in anger opened the door to years of torment. Never act when consumed by rage. One wrong choice can alter your life, Redemption is possible, but it requires humility. Despite all she lost, Sandra found healing, not through pride, but through prayer, correction, and humility. Grace is real, but only for those willing to change. Be kind. Be humble. Because life is spiritual, and a careless word or action can open doors you may never be able to shut. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss another life-changing story. Now let me ask you, have you ever spoken harshly to someone without realizing they might be the reason your life is still standing today? Think about it. Share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay humble, stay kind, and remember, life runs deeper than what we see. God bless you. Goodbye.